You're live.
Okay. Let me grab this. Folks, why do you support the terrorist state of Israel? Do you support Israeli terror attacks against U.S. military personnel? All right. So, oh, by the way, this isn't plugged in.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. Going to be a big stream of them coming out in a little bit. So what we're going to have to do is angle ourselves so that we're facing that. Did this die?
Only the left side works.
Yeah, no, the battery's off on this. Yeah, there you go. You got right side back?
Yep.
All right. So what I'm saying is, so if there are people coming in, swing that way. So you got to have your head on a swivel. If they're coming in, you got to get back here. If they're leaving, you got to get back over there. All right. So they probably send a lot of children and stuff this way. What I've started to notice is that they send the children out the exit that I'm on, and that should be working now. And is the lens still dirty? So the lens cover is broken, so there's probably dust and sediment on the lens. I clean it once in a while, but yeah, the lens is probably damageable. The other phone died. So what they've been doing is they've been sending out the children on my side while the adults exit on the other side. So they're trying to make it look like I'm against kids, so go figure, we're dealing with Jews here. They like to be tricky. So you're going to see they also send out people on crutches and stuff out the side, whereas the healthy adults tend to be going out the other side. Sir, do you support Jewish terrorism against military targets? Why do you support terrorism against the United States? No. Sir, why do you support terrorism? Why do you support Israel then? Israel commits terrorism against U.S. military forces. You've heard of the Levant affair? They did IED our military bases. Have you heard about the USS Liberty, where napalm, torpedoes, cannons were all used? Napalm was dropped on the crew being triaged on deck. Do you believe that Israel has the right to steal 600 pounds of weapons-grade uranium? Well, I think he does think they have that right. This is Jewish privilege, this is Jewish supremacism. Folks, do you think Israel's going to get back the 600 pounds of weapons-grade uranium that were stolen from the Numek nuclear facility in the 1960s? Bobby Kennedy talked about it. He didn't live to tell the tale for long. Oh. All right, hold on. They're sending the kids again. Yes! No, it's all right. You're not going to try and get on my camera. Keep going. So they're going to send the adults out the other door and the kids through this one. Last time I was here last year, they didn't have this fence up when I was here, and I got to be in front of the door, and they would try and do stuff. They sent out like a group of like 20 kids to get in front of the camera while the adults tried to run and cover their face going out the door. You can see the footage from last year. These are Jewish tricks, so this is to be expected. Sir, why do you support terrorism? Do you support Israel?
Just a count.
Oh, all right. All right, so just a note here. Not everyone coming out of there actually supports. Some of them are journalists. Some of them are workers from this building here. So the convention center has permanent staff. There are also caterers and stuff too. But yeah. Gentlemen, do you have any comments about Israeli terror attacks against U.S. military targets? You say you support Jewish terrorism against U.S. military targets? How do you feel about the Jewish IEDs that got planted by Israelis in U.S. military bases in the 50s? Do you think it was right for the Jews of Israel to napalm the naval personnel on the USS Liberty when they were being triaged on deck after suffering cannon fire and torpedo attack from Jewish terrorist forces in 1967? What do you have to say to the fact that we have the interest from the radio proving the Israelis knew they were attacking a U.S. ship? What do you say about the Likud government right now being the spawn of the Arab terrorist network that bombed the King David Hotel?
I have a father that his son was killed by terrorism. then just let me.
So, hold on. Is this the funding that Israel was giving ISIS backfiring?
Four of us, we serve in the army. With us now, we have a father here that he lost his son in terrorism.
You know what? I care more about the hundreds of thousands of U.S. service personnel that have been maimed by IEDs and such serving Israel. Yeah. So the point to make here is that they're trying to say, oh, we're victims of terrorism, etc. The first prime minister of Israel is quoted as saying, and this is a public statement, terrorism, we invented terrorism. This is the first prime minister of Israel said this. He was a member of the airborne terrorist network that bombed U.S. military personnel as well as NATO allies. So how do you feel about the bombing of the King David Hotel, where Jews were trying to blow up British military personnel in the 1940s?
How do you feel about the bombings that have been going on in Israel all of today? 7 people were attacked, actually. How do you respond to that?
I say free Palestine.
Free Palestine.
We should be funding Hezbollah and Hamas with the money we're giving Israel.
You should be funding people that have been attacking Israel.
Israel's been funding ISIS, so Israel needs to stop existing as a state. Yes, Israeli newspapers admit it.
What?
I'll post later on tonight Israeli newspapers admitting that Israel has been supplying ISIS.
And I'll post it on
And these are from Jewish newspapers.
I mean, it's
What
true.
Jewish newspapers?
If you win enough votes, it is. Well, so that's one of the things that Jews are good at doing. They're good at saying something and then making it happen.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
No, it's called the Pygmalion effect.
It's called being successful.
It's called owning
I
the
don't
banks.
understand why you're out here right now.
I'm out here because the Jews are sucking the blood out of this country and bringing it to Israel. Jews control the opioid trade in this country. Jews controlled the opioid trade in China.
These are theories?
These aren't theories. The Sackler families own Purdue Pharma. They invented OxyContin and they used the money from the drug deals they do in this country to fund the Sackler Institute. But it's true.
Don't touch it. Don't touch it. He's gonna close it. He's gonna meet to you. Put your hands out. He's gonna meet you. Handshake or not?
There's probably polonium on that hand. No thanks. That's a joke.
Probably tries to save water. Doesn't wash his hands.
Have a good day, brother. Okay, enjoy. See you.
Let's go, guys. Thank you so much for your
Thanks.
time. You're literally a waste of space.
Well, and that's how they feel about U.S. military veterans. Waste of space. Just like they see us as meat shields for Israel. So you're going to hear what they're talking about, the bombings going on in Israel right now. Well, if the Palestinians are trying to not be genocided, and by the way, what's happening to the Palestinians in Palestine is genocide by the UN definition. What happened to the Assyrian Christians, which were being wiped out by ISIS, which Israel's newspapers admit, and we have recordings from the Knesset proving that Israeli politicians were proposing that support for ISIS be increased. These are videos in the Israeli Knesset of them saying that ISIS needed more money. We have videos of Benjamin Netanyahu visiting bedside ISIS terrorists from Syria that were being treated in Israel. And here they try and talk about the conflict going on between the indigenous Palestinians and the Jewish settlers. That is not to be compared. When the Palestinians defend themselves against Jewish genocide, just like the Russians should have when the Jews killed 40 to 65 white Christians in Russia under the 85% Jewish government of 1920 Soviet Union, these Russians should have defended themselves against these Jewish genocidal maniacs that are related today to the Jews in power in Israel. That's right, 85% of the Soviet government prior to World War II, according to the Jewish World Encyclopedia, were ethnically Jewish. They say, oh, these Jews here say, well, they weren't religiously Jewish, so they're not Jews. Well, that's not true. The Jewish World Encyclopedia lists Bronstein, also known as Trotsky, the leader of the atheist Red Army, as a Jew, because Jews go by race, not by religion. An atheist Jew in Israel, if they are ethnically Jewish, can marry a priestly caste Jew, a Kohanim, in Israel. However, if someone converts to Judaism and tries to marry Kohanim, that's illegal in Israel. Israel is a race-based state. Now, I don't have a problem with the state saying we're X state. If Japan says we're the Japanese state, okay, very well. But Japan didn't come into existence by genociding the indigenous people already there. Japanese people evolved in Japan. And if the Jews wish to do an old-style massacre of a landmass so they can take control.
Find this later if I want to see it.
On YouTube.
Little.
Yeah.
2020.
Yeah, Little Revolution. Here. Ma'am, do you want to talk about why you support Jewish terrorism? Why you support the Jewish state? No. I also haven't been to hell, and I'm not interested in going. Anyhow, the point I'm making here is that me visiting Israel wouldn't change whether or not the Jews are committing genocide against the Christian and Muslim Palestinians. Wouldn't change the fact that Israel and its politicians and its newspapers admit that they've been funding and treating ISIS. It wouldn't change any fact. The only fact it would change would be whether or not I've set foot in that area of the world. Now, I would love to set foot. I'd like to go to the Church of the Nativity and stuff, but the only problem is the Jews blockade the Christians from making pilgrimages in Bethlehem at the Church of the Nativity. The Jews in the IDF take 50 caliber machine gun turrets on tanks to statues of the Virgin Mary. Now, if you're a Christian and you're supporting Israel, you better ask yourself, why are they destroying ancient Christian churches? Why are they sponsoring ISIS, which is wiping out among the oldest ancient Christian early adopter populations? The Assyrians are among the most ancient peoples of the Middle East. They were among the first to convert to Christianity, and they've been all but wiped out by ISIS. And look up the videos in the Israeli Knesset where Israel openly admits that they're sponsoring ISIS. Look up the videos of Benjamin Netanyahu bedside with ISIS terrorist fighters. Look up the fact that there was a radio communication between ISIS commanders apologizing to Israel for accidentally having confused it with the Syrian convoy after they opened fire on it. That's right, Israel and ISIS do not attack each other. If you ask yourself how come ISIS, Al-Qaeda have never attacked Israel, it's because that's who funds them. Why has Al-Qaeda never attacked Israel? Why has ISIS never attacked Israel? Why do they attack Europe? Why do they attack the United States? Because they want Christians and Muslims to go to war so that when people get deployed to the Middle East to destabilize Muslim countries and even pluralist countries like secular Syria, where Christians and Muslims live in peace, then they can say, well, remember those ISIS and Al-Qaeda attacks. Now go to the home countries of these Arabs and these Muslims and destabilize the country. The migration into Europe is a result of Jewish control of our State Department and forest policy. We destabilized Iraq based on Jewish lies printed in Jewish newspapers, causing the migration into Europe now and the human crisis of people trying to cross to Europe. This was caused by Jewish foreign policy. This was caused by Zionist control of our excellent military, which was used as a bludgeon to destroy the home countries of those people that are now being flooded into Europe. And by the way, the NGOs like Israel flooding those people who had their countries destroyed by Jewish control of our military, Jewish control of our State Department, those NGOs are Jewish. I can show you videos of Jews from Israel on the beaches in Greece taking the people that their foreign policy displaced from their homes and sending them to Europe. That's right. The migrant crisis of 2015 to 2016 was not only caused by Jews, but pushed by Jews, like George Soros, that funded the NGOs for open borders, that fund the Israel ships that help the migrants get into Europe. Now, is it wrong that these people from the Middle East and North Africa had their countries destroyed by plans for a greater Israel? Yes, that is terrible. Is it also wrong that then these Jews try and force the taxpayers of other countries to pay for the people from these broken states to come into their country? Yes, that is also wrong. And both things are done by Jews. The destruction of countries and then the forcing of Western countries to pay for the people from those broken countries. All the while, they're blaming American crusaders and stuff for what happened to their home countries, because the Jewish media sells it to them as such. The Jews like to get involved with every side, and they especially like to incite people against whites, against Palestinians, against ancient Christian populations, because it's a tactical advantage for them to do so. So when you see Jews like Pamela Geller pushing for all-out war with all Muslims, that is because it serves Jewish interests, including the interests of the Jewish state. When you see Jews, like Jihad Watch Jews, pushing that all non-Muslims be at war with Muslims. That's because Israel is surrounded by Muslim countries and they want mercenary armies like they've used our army in the past to destroy the competing regional competitors in the Middle East. You have to remember, the invasion of Israel was based on Jewish lies printed in Jewish newspapers, the Jewish New York Times, the Jewish CNN, Jewish Fox News.
Dude, get a fucking job, you loser.
This is my job. Anyhow, they said the same thing to me when I was a leading challenger to the dual citizen Dianne Feinstein in California. They said I was a bum. They said I was wasting my time. They said I should get a job. When I was leading 31 candidates, including Kevin De Leon, who spent close to $10 million on his campaign, I spent less than $12,000. I was beating a dude that spent $6 million or $10 million or however much De Leon spent. This is not a waste of my time. I will give you a higher return on your donation dollar than any other candidate in history. Donate to my campaign. It will fund a bus. I won't get held up at the airports like they've been holding up. They won't spend 5 minutes patting down my genitals like I streamed to you as they did at the airport. We need to get me a campaign bus because things are continuing going to get sticky at the airports and such for me. So I'd like to avoid air travel because they patted me down twice. They swabbed me down. I missed my plane once. So if I arrange to be someplace flying via air, I have to leave like 3 days before the event because God knows how long I'm going to get held up at the airports. This happened to Ken O'Keefe because he pointed out Jewish and Zionist control of this country. They did the same thing to him. There are videos of Ken O'Keefe also being harassed at airports. Doesn't matter that I have a secret security clearance with the military. Doesn't matter I was honorably discharged as a sergeant of Marines on September 11th, 2015. Yes, my EAS or end of active contract was September 11th. My first day in boot camp was September 12th. The point I'm making here is that it doesn't matter who you are, how much you've served your country, how loyal a citizen you've been. If you question Jewish power, they start turning the screws. And it's time for the American public to start turning the screws of public scrutiny on these traitorous, rat, bastard Jewish supremacists. No more wars for Israel. No more U.S. aid to Israel. Israel has a higher standard of living than the United States, but they get more aid than every other country in the world we give aid to combined. Why are we giving aid to a country that's richer than us? Why are we giving aid to a country who has dual citizens that run our corporations that send their money back there? The Sackler family, which makes money off from Purdue Pharma, which they own, which sells opium in a pill to our youth, to our workers, and to our people that are hurting in the military. I have friends in the Marine Corps that got addicted to Jewish opioids. Yes, that's right, the Sackler pills they were taking, paid for by the U.S. government and the Department of Defense, those profits went to the Jewish dual citizens, the Sackler family, and those profits went to Israel. They're making enough fleecing us. They're making enough money off from the drug rackets they got going on here. They don't need U.S. aid. No more aid for Israel. And the reason they keep on getting aid, the reason why they get away with these double standards, the reason why they're allowed to hold legislative seats while having citizenship in a foreign hostile country is because they control the media. And if you control the flow of information, that's more important than controlling a military, because if you control the information, if you control the propaganda, you will eventually control the military. And right now we've got a country full of people that think that worshiping Israel is the equivalent of their salvation. And I can tell you one thing, I'm not practicing any faith right now, but when I was, I knew my New Testament. And nowhere in the New Testament does it say that Zionism is equivalent to salvation. If you're a Christian, stand up for the Christians in the Middle East that these Jews are massacring. Stand up for the Christian Palestinians. Stand up for the Assyrians, which are being wiped out by ISIS, which is sponsored by Israel, which the Israeli Knesset admits, which the Jewish newspapers in Israel admit. Stand up for Christianity if you're a Christian. Oppose these blood-sucking, murderous, genocidal bastards that are wiping out the ancient Christian populations. Sir, what do you think of Israeli support for ISIS?
Oh, so we're with them.
Wait.
How long are you going to be out here?
Until Jews stop streaming out of the building.
Oh, wow. You want to get him now or you want to eat?
Be right back.
Are you going to be out here about 30 minutes or more?
So
Yeah, I'll probably, if my camera stops working, I go. Yesterday, 2 of my cameras stopped working. I had to go to my tablet. I mean, and they weren't out of battery. I'm out of battery on one of them, and this one.
yeah, hold on, we'll
Yeah.
get you now. Where are you out of?
Say again.
Where are you from?
The Bay Area.
Okay.
I'm from San Francisco.
I'm here for AIPAC.
I came here to protest. Yes, I believe in the founding documents of this country, including the Declaration of Independence.
So we're from True News. We're out of Vero Beach, Florida. We do tech and geopolitics with a Christian perspective,
Okay.
but we certainly are aware of the fate of the Palestinians and the Christians, what's going on there. So we actually want to get your take on this.
Sure.
That's quite a ride to come out here.
Well, it was quite a ride coming out here. I live streamed as I was jerked around for 2 hours before I was able to finally be told that I'd missed my plane. And then when I was trying to get on the plane after, it took an hour for them to print my replacement ticket on a later flight. They searched me on the way into security, swabbed me down. Then when I was getting on the plane, they did the same thing, patting down my groin for what I would say is quite an excessive amount of time. And the second time they did it, I live streamed it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And before he gets ready, what's your message?
My message is essentially that Jews run this country to the detriment of all non-Jews. My message to this country is that the Declaration of Independence says that we are independent of any foreign nation, and that you could substitute the word Israel for the word England in the Declaration of Independence. Substitute for King George, you can substitute the Prime Minister of Israel, and the complaints are all completely legitimate. They fit in like a cookie cutter, with the exception of some of the regional disputes going on around the Appalachians and the Pioneer Country. All of the complaints levied against the Crown are equivalent to the ones now levied against, I now levy against Israel. And if you go back to November or December, I read the Declaration of Independence where I replaced the word England or Great Britain with Israel, and where I replaced the word King George with, Benjamin Netanyahu.
That's good. Will you hold that?
Yeah, sure.
Until he gets ready? That's good stuff.
Yeah.
And what's your best protest card of the two?
Oh,
Probably the other one, right?
yeah, yep. I forgot which one was up, but yeah.
Got me with my gear on.
What's that? Give me 1 second. Yeah, you take time. Got a little food action up there, hopefully. Have you been to the Capitol?
Not since I was a student at American University.
Oh, wow. So you're coming back home of sorts.
Yeah, I started out my college career here at American University.
All right, guys.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
You going?
All right, I'm recording. You're live.
I'm Kerry Kinsey for True News in downtown Washington, D.C., and we have someone who's here for AIPAC, but more importantly, you're here to protest what's going on down the street at AIPAC, aren't you?
That's correct. I'm here to protest Zionist Jewish control of our government.
And what's your name and where are you from?
My name is... Just a moment here. Our friend Shlomo is going to have some fun with us real quick here.
Yeah, it's I'm here to just sitting down on the mic, but you're gonna have to yell at me. They got a buffer for those kind of things. Oh, you're bad. I'm a bad guy. Eyes all right. I'm gonna turn the sensitivity down. He's gonna talk into that microphone, okay?
Okay, sure.
All right, sound. You gotta talk into it, or I'm not gonna hear you. Okay?
Okay, we're recording a copy here too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's good. All right, I'm ready. But you know,
Sennheiser's good stuff.
well, I mean, a lot of this climate, it'd be better if you had a stick, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
My right channel is this, and my left channel is the directional.
Okay, good. Are you ready?
Well, yeah, sure.
All right. I'm Kerry Kinsey from True News in downtown Washington, D.C., and we have a protester here. You've come from San Francisco just to protest AIPAC. Wow.
That's right. After a lot of harassment at the airport and having to miss a flight from my boarding pass saying this is not a boarding pass, and me being switched back and forth between the service counters 6 times before I missed my flight, I eventually got patted down twice, including on the tarmac on the way into the plane, and made it just in time onto my makeup flight to San Francisco. So I'm here on 2 days travel and just about no sleep.
Okay, what's your name, and tell us who you're with and what your message is.
Well, my name is Patrick Little. I'm a former Trump supporter that believed in his campaign promises. And during his campaign, I woke up to what you would call the Jewish question. And now I'm here protesting Donald Trump and the rest of our government that is controlled by a foreign power. I believe in the Declaration of Independence as well as the other founding documents. And in November of this last year, I read the Declaration of Independence again, substituting the word Israel for England and Great Britain, and substituting Netanyahu for King George.
And let's just talk about 2 of your posters that are obviously getting a lot of attention from AIPAC attendees. What does this one say? Tell me quickly what it's about, and then the next one.
Well, this one says Trump has become Israel's whore.
Meaning what?
Meaning Trump does whatever Israel wants, just like the rest of our government, like a well-paid whore, like our government is for Israel.
Okay, what about the next one? That's a pretty good one, too. I have to say, only 2 posters in, all the way 3,000 miles. Maybe you'll draw up a few more, huh?
Well, I'll be here tomorrow, but yesterday, I'm also a full-time student using my GI Bill, and yesterday I had to stay up completing homework in order to not lose my GI Bill. So the other one says, America first means no more wars for Israel, and that is the platform that Trump ran on. He said that the Iraq war was a huge mistake. He said no more foreign entanglements. He said, like Charles Lindbergh and Father Coughlin in the 1930s, America first. And I thought that American voice was resonating through history, that American voice for independence, like our founding fathers said, and against foreign entanglements. I thought that was sounding through today into a new leader in Donald Trump, and how wrong I was. He did not have the moral courage to withstand the Jewish media's onslaught, and now he is Israel's whore. And
what about what kind of reaction you're getting from AIPAC attendees? Because you're right here, just outside the arena, and I'm sure some people have voiced their displeasure with what you're saying.
Yes, there have been a lot of people saying they don't like what I'm doing, and when I asked them why they support Jewish terrorism, as the Jewish state is committed against the U.S. military in the Levant affair, where the Jews planted IEDs in U.S. military bases in the 1950s, and in the 1967 terrorist bombing of the USS Liberty with over 200 casualties, when I bring up these incidents, when they say, "What do you mean terrorism?" they laugh. And I, as a Marine Corps veteran of Afghanistan, am deeply offended, to the point where I'm nearly enraged when they laugh at casualties of Jewish terrorist attacks from our U.S. forces. You can't laugh at people that were wounded by Jewish terrorist attacks, the dead from the USS Liberty, all 34 of them. It's not funny, and the well-being of our military is not a joke.
Okay, well, thanks so much for being with us, and we'll be watching to see what kind of other reaction you get. So I'm Kerry Kinsey in downtown Washington, D.C. for True News.
Good job, man. Glad that guy still doing what he's doing.
That'll teach you, man.
Well, my voice was a little shaky. If you want to do that again some other time, we also had the guy with the motorcycle. It's
Yeah, that's wrong.
I think the cops let him. Join him, what's up?
Where you going? Are you going to be out here? Are you going to get a work? Will you be out there?
I'll be out here. Yeah. And what are we doing for battery life there?
It's 14%.
Oh yeah, that we got another 10 minutes. Yeah, we can join you over there. I need to plug in.
Nice size. You can see it all. So this one lets you do 2 channels, full size XLR. Yeah.
Do you have your left or your right channel as your mobile?
Right now it's combined in one mono.
Oh.
You have the external recorder. If you are putting it all into The phone, you've got to dial it in yourself.
I like having it as two separate channels so I can isolate them.
You've got to have the separate recorder to do that, though.
Oh, really?
On the phone, they're combined, and I can't isolate them. I have to fine-tune it.
Oh. Well, I put this together like Frankenstein.
Hey, man, you know what you're doing. That works. You have isolated channels. I don't.
Oh. Well, yeah, I put this together. Some stuff worked, some things didn't. You got to be careful of the 3-prong versus the 2-prong on the auxiliary.
TRS versus TRS. Right, that's what they're called.
Conceptually, I don't
Ring sleeve is
so, yeah.
what it is.
Yeah, yeah.
Does it sound pretty good? Yours?
Yeah, the Sennheiser is it's a pretty kick butt, but we can probably end the stream
I
now.
promise you, with that in the background, it's going to sound bad.
Well,
Yeah.
of course. But
Let me tell you, what you might get, I don't know if you got the cash, but it's a Sennheiser MKH 416.
Yeah, they're like
It's
$1,000.
But, you know, I did used to do a lot of voiceovers.
Yeah.
But they're used on movie theaters because they're used as a pickup mic for, you know, for this kind of stuff here. You stand over here and get it, and everything around us would sound.
Write it down.
What, huh?
Can you write it
well,
down?
you can just Pat at littlerevolution.us. I tell you what, if you want to, not on me, I've got this, and I've got more of these. If you just put Pat in front of
drown that guy
littlerevolution.us,
out.
that's my email.
Have it as
So
omnidirectional, so it's only getting
We're going to go until we run out of battery here, then we'll join you over there and plug in. So if you want to get a table, you can order me a Coca-Cola if you like.
Okay, yeah, hey, he's gonna join for dinner.
I'll join you. So this is probably going to run out in about 8 or 9 minutes before it's critically low battery. We're going to get as many people's faces on tape before we head in.
Good luck.
Okay, we'll be over there.
But these people should be ashamed of themselves, and I want their faces out there.
You need to watch us, man, because
You like our show?
you like our shows. We say a lot of things that you're saying. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, and I have a lot of, so you become a Christian network, I have a lot of people that are Muslim that agree with me.
Yeah.
I have a lot.
We have Muslim watchers.
We got Muslim and atheist watchers. So just smart on board. There's a guy here. What's going on in the building?
So Florida, yeah, I was recruited in the Marine Corps out of Jacksonville.
No way.
Yeah, I spent some time going to church down there. I went to some Pentecostals and First Baptist and some Lutherans down there. I used to go to like 3 or 4 church services a week.
That's good. You were in Afghanistan?
Yeah, I was OEF 14 Operation Enduring Freedom 2014 January until end of July.
Yeah, I'm an Army brat. My dad was a sergeant major in 2 wars.
Oh, wow.
He lived in Korea. Brother's a retired colonel in Afghanistan and Iraq. Married major. Well, she's a colonel now, lieutenant colonel. We've been everywhere, man. All over there.
Oh, well, you know, my family, and I'm not going to say which member requested I get out of the military. I tried to re-enlist when I was in country, but somebody said no.
Who said that?
Somebody who doesn't want to be part of my political activities.
Oh, I got you. So it's Pat what?
Pat at littlerevolution.us. Pat at littlerevolution.us, not .com. I'm worried that if you use .com, future regulations will say that I'm subject to some international body if I use .com, whereas .us is specific to U.S. jurisdiction.
Pat at Little Revolution.
.us.
Be prepared for that to become a bigger problem.
Oh, New Zealand just banned pretty much any site you can do political commentary on anonymously.
That's not cool. And because of the blockchain, they're going to be able to decentralize the internet. They won't be able to do stuff like that eventually. There are plenty of open organizations building decentralized internets to prevent that from happening.
Well, the only problem is then that we need the hardware to match because they can shut it down in real time. I don't know if you're familiar with Vault 7 from WikiLeaks, but they have ring zero access to all processors.
Really?
Yeah. So unless we resurrect William Shockley from the grave and get him to invent the new semiconductor market for us here and manage to keep all the dual citizens from getting in there, we're subject to ring zero access to pretty much every processor made in the world today.
All Intel.
And a lot of AMD too.
Really? Okay. Snapdragon mobile processors too?
Well, even the NSA reports that they were pulling ROM chips off from the gigabit Ethernet ports of the switches and routers that they had being shipped to their locations.
Don't get me started, man. We're going down a rabbit hole, and it's all true, every bit of it.
But Israel's the biggest spy against the United States. That's another thing. And the largest spy case in history was the Jonathan Pollard case, which led to the deaths of dozens of U.S. military operatives and foreign service personnel in our intelligence services. And these are Jews selling U.S. secrets to benefit Israel.
Hey, he wants to talk.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
You asked for something or nobody?
You wanted to say something?
Are you not here?
You want to talk?
Yeah.
Oh, you want to talk about what he's doing?
I thought you were asking a question.
I can't. I've already done an interview with him.
Yeah, we're waiting for my battery to run out. But we're trying to get as many people on camera, so let's focus on this. Yeah, that's real dedication to Israel. Maybe now the Jewish media will let up on him. Never cave to the Jews. Never cave to the Jews. The weather in Madagascar is nice this time of year.
Germany, Poland, Spain.
How many genocides have the Jews committed? Purim is a celebration. Last night there was a celebration.
Why would you message people? You want the genocide.
We're going to stop Jews from committing genocide.
You're running his engine. I should. Doing that.
I'm not trying to stop level that because we're in the process of. All right. But Jews are the most genocidal people in history.
It's a splitter for audio and power if you have iPhone. You can charge it while recording.
I've had trouble with those ports because I get interference when I try and do audio over the Lightning port.
I just have this. I haven't had that yet.
Is that the iPhone 8 or what?
7 Plus.
Oh, I got crazy amounts of interference.
I haven't had any.
Well, I tell you one thing. I'd like to switch over to the tablet until that runs out.
If you want to talk about what he's...
What I'm trying to do is get as many people's faces on camera so that they can be publicly shamed. So.
Not my face, please.
You want to talk about what he's...
Oh, this is his. You're his camera. Yeah.
So we're trying to keep the camera focused on the people pouring out of the Zog conference. Okay. We want as many faces as possible for the public to be able to recognize. There will come a time when support for Israel